Hello, this is Albemarle Digger. Many of you have probably watched my previous presentations in which I have tackled reconstructions on all sorts of relics, from ration cans to toy cars. The unique thing about these projects is that each and every one of them pose a different challenge. Many of the iron relics you are seeing here have come from the unkind soils of Maryland and Virginia. When dug, the metal on these relics is generally bubbled with rust and well on its way to becoming one with Mother Nature. Sort of along the same lines as the old saying, ashes to ashes and rust to dust. Okay, so that isn't really how the saying goes. But that is my relic-related spin-off of the old burial phrase, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. That phrase is usually used to denote total finality, which, if these relics weren't rescued, would be the very case. The saying is based on scripture, however, for in Genesis 3:19, it says, "Dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return." To keep these relics from reaching the stage of total finality, these projects require special treatments to stop the rusting process. Otherwise, they would continue to decay and eventually turn into dust. These relics are generally fragile when they are found, so efforts have to be taken to restore the integrity of the metal so that the relics can be handled without the fear of crumbling in your hands. Over the years, I have developed a process that I feel works very well for these relics that are retrieved from the harsh soils of Maryland, Virginia, and other localities. But none of the projects you have seen here prepared me for the project I am about to tackle. How many of you are familiar with a magazine called The American Digger? Well, my next project comes right out of the November-December 2010 issue of The American Digger, which is Volume 6, Issue 6. American Digger has a mission. That is, to visit and hunt with American Digger readers across the United States, attempting to find at least one historical artifact from every state in the nation. In this particular issue, John Velke and crew take you on the road to Colorado, where there is much history to be found, from early gold and silver mines to its role in the Indian Wars. It was there that they found one of the many old military posts that were scattered along the Smoky Hill Trail. The posts were occupied from the late 1860s on up into the mid-1880s. Along with small detachments of soldiers, these posts served to protect the stagecoaches and stagecoach stops along the Smoky Hill Trail. Many camp relics were recovered from this post, including the half of the bullseye canteen you see here. John looked and looked, but couldn't find the other half of the canteen in the amount of time allotted. Fortunately, another member of the crew, Ron Erickson, went back to the site about a month later and was able to find the pieces to the other half of the canteen. He graciously gave the pieces to John so he could complete his relic. And this is where my involvement begins. I have never had the opportunity to work with metal that displayed the challenging properties this canteen presents. The metal is not badly rusted due to the intense heat and dryness of the Colorado prairie, but the metal is very brittle because of that very environment. It is stretched, I guess, from being run over or stomped on. Both halves are darn near flat, and there are folds that have to be dealt with. The halves are so distorted that the true design of the canteen is not immediately obvious. In order to proceed with the reconstruction, the first thing I need to do is determine which canteen it is that I'm actually working with, so that I can get the design and measurements to try to get an accurate reconstruction. Next, I need to verify the diameter of the canteen so that I can turn a wooden swage block that will be needed to reshape the canteen at a later date. I chose to make my swage block out of oak. I carefully transferred the diameter of the canteen onto the block and took it to my bandsaw where I cut it out. Next, I took the swage block and put it on the lathe and turned it to where it was slightly concave, and then transferred the lines of the ribs of the canteen onto the swage block. I then put the swage block back on the lathe and took the chisels and hollowed out the grooves that represent the ribs on the canteen. The preliminary work is done, but I still have to contend with the brittle nature of the metal. I started this process by embedding the canteen pieces into a casserole dish filled with white sand and soapy water. Every day for a little over a month, I would bake the casserole dish in the oven for a minimum of 2 hours a day, starting at 150 degrees and working its temperature all the way up to 500 degrees. With the temperature being 500 degrees, I would remove the casserole dish from the oven, carefully remove the canteen pieces, knock off the loose sand, and place the pieces on the swage block where I would use dapping tools to recreate the ribs of the canteen the best I could. Reshaping the grooves would also reshape the contour of the canteen. The first half is just about done as far as the reshaping goes, but the second half that's in pieces needs quite a bit of attention. It's got a fold here and a fold there, and the thing is almost flat. So I'll get busy with that piece as well. Before I get started, I need to embed the pieces back in the sand, put them back in the oven, and heat them to another 500 degrees. Now that they're done heating up, I'm going to take them back out, carefully remove the pieces from the sand, put them on the swage block as well, use the dapping tools to recreate the grooves, and I'm also going to straighten out the folds on the two sides. Well, now that the folds are straightened out and most of the work on the swage block has been done, you can see that this half is beginning to take shape nicely. Let me reach over here and grab the other half, and I'll put them together and hold them up for you so you can see what it looks like at this point. You can see that the halves are put together. They actually almost look like a canteen. The next step is to get the pieces and parts, put them back together, and start rebuilding the canteen. While I wait for my glue gun to heat up to 300 degrees and my stick of super amber glue to start melting, I'm going to take the pieces here and give them a light coat of this duplicolor rust fix. That seals the metal and allows the glue to adhere properly and keeps it from rusting out internally. Next time you see these pieces, they'll be reassembled and you'll be looking at the finished product. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. This has been an Albemarle Digger presentation.